Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday, February 17th. A significant winter storm is headed to the mid-Atlantic region. It looks like it will have an impact from early Thursday well into the day on Friday. A rather long duration event, significant accumulating snow along the I-95 corridor region from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City. There will be ice as well in the entire I-95 corridor region, and a cold air mass moved into the area late yesterday into the early part of last night. The winds kicked up following the passage of a strong cold front. Temperatures dropped significantly overnight. Dew points dropped quite a bit, as well as high pressure builds to the north. It looks like that high pressure system will anchor this cold air mass in place throughout much of the upcoming event. In fact, we're going to start off here with a forecast loop of the 2-meter temperatures from last night's 0Z run of the NAM model that extends from tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Thursday, all the way to 7 a.m. Friday. The main thing I want to point out here is the entire D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor, right in this region right here. Here's D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. This entire area stays at or below freezing throughout this 24-hour time period, and with a lot of moisture coming this way, that spells trouble. Certainly we have accumulating snow and ice, and again, temperatures will remain below freezing for the most part, even in the urban areas, and most certainly in suburban areas to the north and west of the big cities. That's in contradiction to the storm system that we experienced Monday night that went well to the north and west of the I-95 corridor. Temperatures rose in the overnight hours on Monday night going into Tuesday morning to above freezing, prevented any kind of snow or any kind of significant icing. But for this event, cold air looks like it'll lock in, stay at or below freezing right through this 24-hour period from tomorrow morning to Friday morning. Well, here's a current radar image from WSI's and telecast.com. A lot of snow and ice again down across a very, very cold central part of the nation. This same area experienced some accumulating snow and ice just a couple of days ago. That storm system went all the way up into the Ohio Valley, and from that particular position it produced snow for Indiana and Ohio on the backside or the cold side of that low pressure area. Since winds blow counterclockwise around lows in the mid-Atlantic region, we experienced some southwesterly winds that promoted some warming, at least in the upper part of the atmosphere, again preventing any kind of a significant snow or ice event along the I-95 corridor region. However, with this next system, the storm track will be quite different. It'll move from this particular region to right here, right off the mid-Atlantic coastline. This is where the main activity will be over the next 24 to 36 hours or so. Winds on the backside will keep that cold air in place. The mid-Atlantic region will be this time on the cold side of the low pressure area. So that storm track farther to the south and east makes a lot of difference compared to the one earlier this week. Well, let's go through the NAM model run, excuse me, from last night at 0Z. We're kind of looking at many different fields, different parameters here to kind of get a breakdown of what to expect over the upcoming system. This is a forecast map from the 0Z NAM run at 250 millibars. That's about 35,000 feet up in the atmosphere, way up in the upper part of the atmosphere. And this is the jet streak, a very, very impressive jet streak at 250 millibars midday tomorrow, early afternoon tomorrow. Again, this is a forecast map, but notice also high pressure sitting right here over the southeastern part of Canada. Many years ago when I was a grad student at Penn State, my faculty advisor, Dr. John Kerr, is a tremendous synoptician and forecaster. He always stressed the importance of a high pressure system to the north for any kind of a snowstorm in the I-95 corridor region as a means to lock in that cold air. It's one thing to get cold air into the mid-Atlantic region. It's another thing to sustain it with the relatively warm waters of the western Atlantic right nearby. You need high pressure to the north, and indeed we have that After Penn State, I started to work at NASA Goddard for Dr. Louis Uccellini, who also is a tremendous forecaster, a great synoptician, now happens to be the head of the National Weather Service, the director. He always stressed the importance of jet streaks for any kind of a mid-Atlantic snowstorm, both in the upper level and the lower level, and the combination of the two really helped to sustain the cold air and also produce the upper motion necessary for the development of low pressure along the mid-Atlantic coastline. He'll be happy with this forecast map as well, as indeed we have a very strong upper level jet streak, and typically you have a lot of upper motion on what's called the right entrance region here, kind of the lower right quadrant, and notice that's where the surface low pressure system is midday on Thursday. This upward motion will transfer all the way to the mid-Atlantic region. This is where that storm system will end up, again aided in large part by this jet streak aloft, but a mid-Atlantic coastal system will allow for the mid-Atlantic region to be on the cold side, much more in the way of snow and ice compared to the rain from earlier this week. In this high pressure area, since winds blow clockwise around highs, that will send cold air down along the eastern slopes of the Appalachian Mountains, what we call cold air damming. Basically, that cold, dense, dry air mass slides down the eastern side of the Appalachians, and it's very hard to dislodge. And once this low pressure system moves to the north and east, it'll attempt to push some warmer air into the mid-Atlantic northeast. This cold, dense air will act as an overrunning surface, and the warmer air just gets shunted up on top and over, resulting in precipitation, and that will lead to the snow and ice for the I-95 corridor region. So a lot of things in place: high pressure to the north and a very strong jet streak aloft. Well, in addition to that jet streak aloft, we have a low-level jet streak. This is the same time frame, midday, early afternoon tomorrow. This is the lower part of the atmosphere, 850 millibars, about a couple thousand feet off the surface. And look at this low level. These are winds at 850 millibars, and there's also upper motion in the left quadrant, the upper left quadrant of a jet streak. So the combination of the lower level jet and the upper level jet will lead to upward motion right in the mid-Atlantic region, and that will not only help to develop and intensify low pressure, it'll help to intensify the snowfall. Expect to see some heavier snow bands tomorrow morning, especially into the midday hours up across New York City. The snow could come down quite hard for a while and accumulate quite quickly. Well, one other parameter I'd like to take a look at here, this is this purple area right here represents what we call frontogenesis, the kind of the mid-levels of the atmosphere, and oftentimes that is an area to look for intense lifting in the atmosphere and perhaps some heavier snow bands in this particular case, or it could be sleet, heavier sleet bands as well. But this is as of 7 a.m. tomorrow. And again, at this particular time, you could see some heavy snow bands in and around the D.C. metro region, and this slowly moves to the north, this particular region right here, into the mid-morning, let's say, late morning in the Philadelphia metro region, and then by midday, early afternoon, up across New York City. And that could be the area where there's some heavier snow bands. Again, early morning D.C., mid to late morning perhaps Philadelphia, late morning, early afternoon, New York City. Watch out for the snow that can come down hard at times and accumulate quite quickly. Well, let's now take a look at the surface forecast maps from the 0Z run of the NAM model, starting at midnight tonight. And you notice there's a kind of a little spike of snow that could extend up into Pennsylvania in the overnight hours, the wee hours of the morning. So there's a chance it could actually begin earlier up in parts of Pennsylvania than it does south of the Mason-Dixon line, with this kind of a spoke of moisture, in this case snow. Here we are now by early tomorrow morning, about 6 a.m., snow just about on the doorstep of D.C. and maybe breaking out across parts of southeastern Pennsylvania at just about the same time. We get to 7 a.m. This is a time period can expect some heavier snow bands over the D.C. metro region. By the way, in terms of preliminary estimates for accumulations, maybe 3 to 6 inches in and around the D.C. metro region. maybe out on the limb, but I think DC metro region does not escape this time. They get several inches of snow here. Isolated higher amounts to the north and west. It may end up being quite a difference from the far southeastern suburbs in DC to the far northwestern suburbs. Significantly more snow, for example, Leesburg, Virginia, as compared to, let's say, La Plata, Maryland on the far southeastern side. But again, heavier snow breaking out early tomorrow morning. That extends up into the Philadelphia metro region by the mid-morning hours, and that's about the time it starts arriving in New York City as well. Now, the purple here represents a mixing with or a changeover to sleet, certainly going to play a role in the I-95 corridor. Later tomorrow, it can change over to sleet. Later tomorrow afternoon in the DC metro region, even in the Philly metro region, there can be some sleet mixed in the afternoon hours. But several inches of snow can accumulate before any kind of a mixing, both in DC and Philadelphia, primarily a snow event for New York City. And even at this particular time, midday tomorrow, this is indicating some very heavy snow bands right here. So again, watch out for at least a few hour period of heavy snow, DC, Philadelphia, and ultimately New York City, not long after the onset of the precipitation early tomorrow. Then we move forward. This is something here that the NAM model has been kind of consistent on, and I think it is indeed a possibility. That is kind of a relaxation of the precipitation late in the day tomorrow into the early part of tomorrow night. Kind of a dry slot forms here, and this is a time period where kind of a shift in the pattern here, waiting on the development of this low pressure area off the mid-Atlantic coastline to intensify. So precipitation may lighten up late tomorrow. It's not the signal that the storm is over. In fact, all of this will fill back in with some sleet and snow tomorrow night. And again, there are signs that it could last well into the day on Friday as this system really slows down off the mid-Atlantic coastline. Let's go out a little bit farther here and notice everything starts to fill in, and the low pressure staying in that same general location here, but sleet up across the I-95 corridor region, maybe mixed with snow late tomorrow night, and it could actually change back to snow for a while at the end of tomorrow night into the morning and midday hours on Friday. Still sitting with that low pressure area right off the mid-Atlantic coastline by early Friday morning. Again, some indications that it could be some occasional snow, sleet, freezing rain well into the day on Friday. So again, a significant winter storm headed to the Mid-Atlantic region, and this includes the DC, Philadelphia, New York City metro region. Several inches of snow on the table before any mixing with or changeover to sleet, and there can be some sleet, snow tomorrow night into the day on Friday as well. By the way, one final note here. See a lot of mention that this could be the last hurrah for winter on social media, with some forecasters out there thinking that tomorrow could be the last hurrah for winter. I don't think so. We have a couple of threats just in the next 10 days or so for the Mid-Atlantic region. Certainly a March can produce some snowfall in the Mid-Atlantic region as well. But let's get through this system first. Again, a significant winter storm to impact the Mid-Atlantic region from tomorrow into the day on Friday. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.